say this to people a lot, so forgive me for it. Once again, you both looked like relatively sane people. Clearly, somewhere along the way, you lost your marbles.
There's a short circuit somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're far off.
Yeah.
Moved to the area in 2017, and then we really kind of kickstarted the business in 2019. Tail end of 2018.
We bought property up here in 2017, but by 2019 we were making our first vintage of wine commercially. Prior to that, we actually did do a homemade project in 2018, which really got us going. You know, Gregory and I have been together for 20 years, and early on in our relationship, we were living in San Francisco, and he was from the Bay Area, born and raised, and really introduced me to the wine country. So I was working in financial services in San Francisco, and on our weekends we would come up to Napa. We would go. I remember Inglenook was one of the first wineries we went to. We also found our way over to the Sonoma side and fell in love with Pinot Noir. I remember going to Linmar was one of the first wineries we went to and fell in love with. And you know, back then it occurred to us that it would be a dream to ever own property in the wine country. So it became a dream and a driving force from early on.
I came often as a kid with family, even though, you know, I have a sister, we couldn't drink, but we still always loved joining my mom and dad to go to Napa, and it's just so beautiful out here. I mean, just peaceful and nice getaway. So they definitely got me into it at a younger age, and then that's where I think they took me to Inglenook early on, and I remember the car. I love cars, so I remember the car being upstairs, and I told Brent, like, we got to go to this one winery. It's really cool. So that was probably why it was one of our first stops.
I think you asked, well, what took so long? I just think it's a matter of practicality. We both had careers, jobs. We were, not that we don't still, but it's a very different world now where, making wine is our full-time career. And it was a long road getting here. We didn't see how it was going to work, and we found our way ultimately. But it took that time to make it happen.
I was more enjoying the landscape and the beauty. Like, I don't think I even really had my first drink until I was 21. So I just wasn't into alcohol at all. So I never even worried about what was happening in the wine world.
You're one of the first human beings I've ever met who said that.
I know. It's like, everyone's like, really? Yeah, my high school was kind of boring.
20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, I think we overcame that hurdle a long time ago. We've had the pleasure of working with each other for pleasure. It has been a pleasure for at least 10 years. We ran a real estate investment company in Southern California for the last 10 years or so. That overlapped with getting started in the wine business, and just in the last year, instead of splitting our time between the two locations, we're now full-time residents of this area, and so we're realizing that the job of selling wine is
full-time,
quite intense, and definitely full-time. We're also farmers. We have 65 planted acres of vineyards that we're only taking a small portion of fruit from, the very best fruit that we have, for our own label. The rest we're selling to other wineries. So we've realized that is a yearly challenge, getting that fruit sold, and thankfully we've been successful every year, but it often comes down to the last minute. So it's a lot of phone calls and a lot of relationship building.
I think there's surprises in any new field, but it wasn't shocking, the amount of work. I think it's we have a passion for it, so it wasn't ever like daunting or frightening. It was just like, oh wow, it was always interesting. So then I think in looking back in retrospect, it's like, wow, we've actually really accomplished a lot, learned a lot along the way. But it's all been so fun and exciting, and the people you meet up here is really what seals the deal. They are just the most genuine, sweet, amazing people, and everybody's willing to help. Everybody's willing to roll up their sleeves, share their knowledge, and so again, it just makes it that much easier.
We do.
Yeah.
It's very much split or intertwined, because of the 65 acres of planted vineyards, 63 are in Knights Valley, and the other 2 are on our home property where we live in St. Helena. that's a place we've called home since 2020. We were affected by one of the large wildfires in Sonoma County back in 2019. We did used to live on one of our ranches here, and the house unfortunately burned down, which we're almost done rebuilding. But having now lived in St. Helena for 4 years, we realized that it is the center of the universe when it comes to making wine in Napa Valley. Our wine is made in a custom crush winery called Covert Estate down in Coombsville near downtown Napa. So we're down there all the time. We realize all of our materials come from that area, whether it's corks or capsules or other packaging materials. Our fulfillment warehouse is down there in American Canyon. So we're always on the road, always driving down there for those purposes. But just the same, we have wholesale clients in Santa Rosa where we're driving over the hill to make deliveries, or something simple where we're just driving to Costco or Home Depot. It's all in Sonoma County. So and we're also here in Knights Valley at one of the vineyards every day. Every day there's something to check in on, and it's been a constant work in progress for the last 4 years. Because of the 63 acres here, we planted 40 of those from scratch in 21 and 22.
Yeah.
Wow. So that project was very, very intensive, from putting in irrigation lines to all the trellising and, first of all, the grading and ripping, and then, ordering the plants, getting the plants installed, and then, getting the plants established, and all in the early part of that time frame, dealing with a drought that was very challenging to really get these baby vines going. So, this has been we're at a point now, actually, it's starting to feel almost comfortable where
what are we supposed to do? No more big projects. We actually built a reservoir on the other property as well. So that was just, talk about a learning experience, just seeing that much earth move and what it's going to take to, to build this huge reservoir, which we needed, for the vines. But yeah, there's always big fun projects, something to do. Well, we started with the property on the north end of the valley, which we call Helena Vista Ranch. And that's the one where we had the homestead. And so we actually purchased the property with Brandon's parents, back in 2017. His dad has always dreamed of having a ranch and just a sprawling, piece of property, ride horses and just soak up nature. And after a fairly long search, we stumbled upon this property, and it was just stunning. I mean, it had everything we wanted and needed. It was all raw land, and it was perfect. So we all, went in, got the property, and it was shortly thereafter that we decided, maybe we should put some vines. You got all these beautiful rolling hills. We got this beautiful flat land next to the creek, and it's we should definitely put some vineyard in here. And that's when we started meeting some of the locals, just picking their brain, and then it just snowballed.
How many acres were raw, unplanted?
It's the property 621?
621 acres. Yeah. And we had a study done to see how much of that land was plantable. I think it started at over 120 acres, and that quickly got narrowed down to 60. And then the engineers got involved, and that got narrowed down to 30. Then the county got involved and told the engineer he didn't know what he was doing, and then it got narrowed down to 22. And that's what we ended up going ahead and planting. And we did, I think, 25 or 30 pits. We did soils analysis, and some of the area was excellent and some of it wasn't, so that was part of what factored in. But it took us 3 years to get the approvals to plant that vineyard. I think we started in 2017. So we finally got approval by 20, and I think it was too late in the year. By the time we finally got our permit, it was getting into the wet season, so we had to wait. So then it was 21, and then we worked all year with the earthwork and laying all the pipes and everything, and then it was too late in the year to plant, so we had to put the vines in 22. And Greg mentioned that we bought the property with my dad, with my parents. My dad's a very impatient person, and
loves real estate.
He loves real estate. And somewhere along the way, before we actually planted the vineyard, another property in Knights Valley came available, which is the property that we're on right now, which actually has been an assemblage of several different properties over the last few years. But the heart of it is a 27-acre existing vineyard that allowed us to get into the wine business on an accelerated basis. So we purchased this vineyard, which we call Brookshire Vineyard and Ranch, back in late 2018. So in 2019, we pulled fruit from this property for our inaugural vintage of Brandon Gregory Estate. Our website for Brandon Gregory Estate is brandongregorywines.com. Our Instagram name is exactly the same, Brandon Gregory Wine. If you want to stay here at the beautiful cottage on the vineyard, go to Airbnb.com, search in Calistoga, and you will see the charming vineyard cottage listed. We would love to have you as guests.